I see that the RNC and the Trump campaign filing a lawsuit in a battleground state to stop counting ballots past Election Day. What are you doing with regard to suing Nevada right now?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. You cannot have ballots counted, Maria, after elections are over. And right now, that is one of the many lawsuits we have out across this country to ensure that just that happens, that we have a free, fair, and transparent election. So,
okay, let's put aside just for a second that their idea of a free and fair and transparent election is stopping the voting at midnight, the day of the fucking election. But Donald Trump has been pushing for what?
And our goal will be one day voting with paper ballots.
Paper ballots. See, let's do a little math here. How many voters voted roughly in Nevada in the year 2020?
In the 2020 general election in Nevada, a total of 1,407,761 voters participated, which represented a turnout of 77.26% of the total active registered voters.
How many vote counters do you think they had to count these ballots in 2020?
However, given the scale of the operation and the number of votes processed, it is reasonable to assume that the number of individuals involved in ballot counting across the state could have been over 500.
So I wonder how long it would take 500 ballot counters to count the votes from the 2020 election in paper ballots instead. How long, if you made it in paper ballots and you made them count them all day, how long would it take them? No, half the day, because they have to start halfway throughout the day when voting starts.
To provide a rough estimate of how long it would take for 500 ballot counters to count the paper ballots from the 2020 election in Nevada, we can use some general information and assumptions. From the information available, we know that in Esmeralda County, Nevada's least populous county, 2 county commissioners and a few election workers took more than 7 hours to hand count 317 ballots in the June 2022 primary. This gives us a rough idea of the pace at which ballots can be counted by hand in a small-scale setting. However, for a large-scale election like the 2020 presidential election, the number of ballots would be significantly higher. In the 2020 election, mail-in and early in-person ballots returned totaled 1,338,639.
And there's exactly why they want to kill mail-in voting, right there.
Assuming that the pace of counting in Esmeralda County could be applied statewide, which is a big assumption, as larger counties would likely be able to count faster due to more resources, we can make a rough calculation. Let's say that it takes 7 hours to count 317 ballots. For simplicity, let's round it to 300 ballots for easier calculation. Now, if we have 500 ballot counters each counting at this rate, the total ballots counted per hour would be, using the total number of ballots from the 2020 election. So, it would take approximately 62.25 hours for 500 ballot counters to count all the ballots from the 2020 election in Nevada, assuming they worked continuously without breaks and maintained the same pace throughout.
So yeah, they'd only have to work at like triple time with no urine breaks. No big deal, you can't pee and you have to work at triple time. And also, we can't double check these ballots. They are what they are. Can you imagine if Joe Biden won that and they didn't double check? They'd call scandal right away.
The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over.
But if Donald Trump won on the first, they'd be like, you are not double checking those. 500 ballot counters to count that many votes in paper. It would take 62 hours. No wonder they want to restrict it to less than 24 hours, because voting doesn't start until halfway throughout the day. So once it starts, they have to finish before the end of the day. That gives them 10 to 12 hours to count all the votes as they're coming in. No wonder Republicans want to change it to an impossible number that can never be realistically reached.